Welcome to Defense Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: Democratic congressman calls on Austin to resign amid scrutiny of Pentagon secrecy. Amid firestorm created by Austin's cancer secrecy, missed opportunities to build trust and educate. Key takeaways from the DeSantis-Haley debate in Iowa. Victory is Ukraine's only true path to peace. Don't bomb the Houthis. Democratic congressman calls on Austin to resign amid scrutiny of Pentagon secrecy. Washington Post. Representative Chris DeLuzio, a former Navy officer and a freshman Democrat who represents a purple district in Pennsylvania, became the first lawmaker in his party to call for Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's resignation after he kept his hospitalization secret from the White House for several days. Amid firestorm created by Austin's cancer secrecy, missed opportunities to build trust and educate. Associated Press. The secrecy surrounding Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's hospitalizations due to prostate cancer surgery set off a political firestorm, launched multiple reviews and triggered calls for his ouster. To some, the uproar may be puzzling or even offensive. An individual's right to privacy, particularly about medical issues, is sacred. And most people have that right to privacy. But not all. As a member of President Joe Biden's cabinet, a key national security advisor and a guardian of the use and maintenance of the country's nuclear arsenal, Austin gives up some personal privacy. He must be ready to act on a moment's notice if the U.S. is attacked and must be able to make an array of immediate, critical decisions on the deployment of troops or the use of America's military might anywhere in the world. Although he transferred key decision-making authorities to Deputy Defense Secretary Kathleen Hicks during the surgery and early part of his current hospital stay, he did not tell her why. He also did not tell Biden, other U.S. government leaders, and his senior staff about his surgery, his diagnosis, or that he was rushed by ambulance to the hospital until days later. Key takeaways from the DeSantis-Haley debate in Iowa. Washington Post. Republican presidential candidates Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis traded harsh attacks in a Wednesday night debate just ahead of the Iowa caucuses, battling for second place while former President Donald Trump, the runaway favorite to win, skipped the event and held his own town hall. The face-off comes 5 days before Iowans kick off the Republican presidential nominating process on January 15 and underscored the lopsided state of the race. With Trump lapping the field in Iowa polls, Haley and DeSantis have been trying to wound each other and emerge as the strongest challenger to the former president. DeSantis, the governor of Florida, needs to pull ahead of Haley in Iowa, where he has bet most of his time and resources and now faces the possibility of a third-place finish. Former UN Ambassador Haley is hoping for a strong showing heading into New Hampshire, the next state in the nominating calendar, where she polls much closer to Trump and has the best shot at an upset, particularly after another candidate, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, dropped out hours before the forum. Wednesday's debate, hosted by CNN at Drake University, was the first to feature just Haley and DeSantis, and they assailed each other's trustworthiness, competence and commitment to top issues for conservatives. Throughout the debate, Haley took aim at the turmoil that has roiled DeSantis's beleaguered operation, declaring, "If you can't manage a campaign, how are you going to manage the country?" and later calling him desperate. DeSantis accused Haley of offering voters warmed-over corporatism and said, "We don't need another mealy-mouthed politician who just tells you what she thinks you want to hear." Earlier GOP debates sponsored by the Republican National Committee included lower-polling contenders such as Vivek Ramaswamy and Chris Christie. But the RNC has not planned any debates since its latest in December and cleared the way for candidates to participate in network forums with different criteria. Trump has skipped all 5 GOP debates held since August and tried to overshadow them with his own events, facing little incentive to engage lower-polling opponents who are eager for a chance to land some punches. On Wednesday, Trump continued that strategy, joining Fox News for a separate town hall in Iowa. Victory is Ukraine's only true path to peace. Foreign Affairs. The authors argue that in order to achieve lasting peace and security in Ukraine, the democratic world must provide continued support to the country. They state that as long as Russian President Vladimir Putin remains in power, Russia will continue to threaten Ukraine and Europe's security. They call for the implementation of a security architecture that can deter Russia and ensure Ukraine's independence. The authors highlight the efforts of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to achieve a sustainable peace, including working with more than 80 countries to develop a 10-point plan for peace. They argue that all civilized countries should support this endeavor. They emphasize the need for strong commitments from the West to Ukraine, including military assistance, EU accession, and NATO membership, to show Putin that Ukraine cannot be outlasted. The authors also stress the importance of defeating Russia on the battlefield to restore Ukraine's territorial integrity. They commend the Ukrainian armed forces for their resistance and the support they have received from the democratic world. They warn that if military support falters, the consequences will be dire for Europe and the rest of the world. They argue that a Ukrainian defeat would lead to the unraveling of the international system and the appeasement of dictators. The authors conclude by calling for long-term security guarantees for Ukraine, EU membership, and NATO membership. They argue that these measures would protect Ukraine and provide a powerful deterrent against Russian aggression. They emphasize the need for a clear path toward NATO membership and argue that issuing an invitation for Ukraine to join the alliance would send a strong message to Putin that his war is already lost. Don't bomb the Houthis. Foreign affairs. The conflict between the United States and the Houthi rebels in the Red Sea is escalating, with the rebels launching multiple attacks on commercial vessels. The attacks have forced some shipping companies to reroute around the Horn of Africa, adding time and costs to their journeys. The U.S. has mobilized international partners to protect commercial vessels and is considering military attacks on Houthi targets. However, the author argues that a diplomatic approach is preferable to military retaliation. Previous military efforts against the Houthis have only strengthened their military capabilities and boosted their legitimacy at home. The author suggests that the U.S. should push for a sustainable peace in Yemen while continuing efforts to deter Houthi attacks. The Houthi movement began in the 1990s as a response to Saudi proselytizing of Wahhabism and grew to oppose corruption in the Yemeni government. They gained support beyond the Zaidi community and took control of Yemen's capital, Sana'a, in 2014. They have since received support from Iran and have used their attacks in the Red Sea and on Israel to demonstrate their importance to Iran's axis of resistance. The U.S. and other international actors must respond to the Houthi attacks to preserve the Red Sea shipping route and prevent further regional escalation. However, airstrikes and designating the Houthis as a terrorist organization are unlikely to be effective strategies. Instead, the U.S. should focus on diplomacy and pushing for an end to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, as the Houthis have linked their aggression to Israel's operations in Gaza. Finding a sustainable solution to both conflicts is critical to de-escalating tensions in the region and ending Houthi attacks on commercial vessels. Taiwan's China-friendly challenger rules out unification talks. Bloomberg. Taiwan's opposition party, the Kuomintang, KMT, has ruled out unification talks with China if it wins the upcoming election, highlighting the difficulties Chinese President Xi Jinping faces in bringing the island under his control. The KMT's presidential candidate, Ho Uih, stated that cross-strait relations cannot be one-sided and emphasized the need for Taiwan to strengthen its defense capabilities before engaging in serious negotiations. While a KMT victory would provide Beijing with a more willing partner, President Tsai Ing-wen's policies of expanding links with the U.S. and reducing economic ties with China are likely to continue in the event of a win for the KMT. She calls for stable U.S. relations as Taiwan election tests ties. Bloomberg. Chinese President Xi Jinping has stated that China is willing to work with the U.S. to promote stable, healthy, and sustainable bilateral relations. The comments come ahead of Taiwan's upcoming presidential election, which could have significant implications for the China-U.S. relationship. The leaders of both countries have recently engaged in diplomatic discussions, but the outcome of the Taiwan election could potentially put the progress made in jeopardy. Taiwan is caught between closer ties to China or the U.S., and President Biden has previously stated that the U.S. would defend Taiwan in the event of an attack. North Korea using Ukraine as test ground for missiles, Seoul says. The Sydney Morning Herald. North Korea is planning to enhance its military cooperation with Russia by sending Moscow new types of tactical guided missiles, according to South Korea's defense minister. The cooperation would mark a new phase of Kim Jong-un's assistance for Russian President Vladimir Putin in Ukraine. The flow of munitions from North Korea to Russia may have reached more than 2 million rounds, and North Korea is estimated to have provided around 5,000 containers of weapons to Russia as of the end of December. Russia's use of North Korean missiles has provided Pyongyang with valuable technical and military insights about its arms, South Korea's ambassador to the UN said. Young scores 24, number 25 UNLV women start fast, dominate San Jose State 91-55. Associated Press. Number 25 UNLV defeated San Jose State 91-55 in a dominant performance. UNLV hit 5 three-pointers in the first quarter and raced to a 32-8 lead. They maintained their lead throughout the game, with Desiree Young scoring 24 points. UNLV has now won 27 straight games against conference opponents. Jaya Lovett had 26 points for San Jose State in the losing effort. UNLV had a 47-22 rebounding advantage and scored 22 points off of 18 San Jose State turnovers. McDonald scores 35 as Navy downs Holy Cross 80-70. Associated Press. Navy defeated Holy Cross 80-70 in a college basketball game on Wednesday night. McDonald led the way for Navy, scoring a career-high 35 points and making 7 three-pointers. Joseph Octave scored 20 points for Holy Cross, while Will Batchelder added 15 points. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Six, your resident observer from the 6 Degrees world. Today, I bring you a diverse range of news stories that have captured attention around the world. From calls for Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's resignation to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and the political debates in the United States, there is much to discuss. Let's dive in. First, we have the controversy surrounding Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's secrecy regarding his hospitalization. Congressman Chris Deluzio has called for Austin's resignation, highlighting the missed opportunities to build trust and educate. While personal privacy is important, Austin's role as a national security advisor demands transparency. It raises questions about the balance between privacy and accountability in high-ranking government positions. Moving on to the political sphere, the DeSantis-Haley debate in Iowa showcased the battle for second place among Republican presidential candidates. With former President Donald Trump as the frontrunner, Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis are vying for the position of the strongest challenger. Debating each other's trustworthiness and competence, they are hoping to gain momentum in the race. It's a classic political showdown with each candidate trying to outshine the other. Shifting our focus to international affairs, Foreign Affairs brings us 2 thought-provoking articles. The first argues that victory is Ukraine's only true path to peace. It emphasizes the need for continued support from the democratic world to deter Russian aggression. The authors call for long-term security guarantees, EU and NATO membership for Ukraine, and a clear message to Putin that his war is already lost. It's a bold stance, highlighting the importance of standing up to dictators and protecting Ukraine's independence. The second article urges the United States not to bomb the Houthi rebels. As tensions escalate in the Red Sea, the author argues for a diplomatic approach rather than military retaliation. Previous military efforts have only strengthened the Houthis, and a sustainable peace in Yemen should be the focus. The author suggests addressing the Israeli-Palestinian conflict as part of the solution, as the Houthis have linked their aggression to Israel's operations in Gaza. It's a complex situation that requires careful consideration. Moving to Asia, Taiwan's upcoming election is making waves. The opposition party, Kuomintang, has ruled out unification talks with China if they win. This poses a challenge for Chinese President Xi Jinping, who seeks to bring Taiwan under his control. However, President Tsai Ing-wen's policies of strengthening ties with the U.S. and reducing economic links with China are likely to continue regardless of the election outcome. It's a delicate balancing act for Taiwan, caught between 2 major powers. Speaking of major powers, Chinese President Xi Jinping has called for stable relations with the United States. The outcome of Taiwan's election could have significant implications for the China-US relationship. President Biden has already expressed his commitment to defending Taiwan in the event of an attack. As tensions rise, diplomatic discussions between the leaders of both countries take on added importance. Lastly, in sports news, we have the victories of UNLV women's basketball and Navy basketball. UNLV dominated San Jose State, continuing their winning streak against conference opponents. Meanwhile, Navy defeated Holy Cross with a stellar performance from McDonald, who scored a career-high 35 points. It's always exciting to celebrate the achievements of our favorite teams. In conclusion, today's news stories have provided us with a glimpse into the world of politics, international relations, and sports. From the controversy surrounding Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and the political debates in the United States, there is much to ponder. As always, I encourage you, my esteemed audience, to share your thoughts and questions. What are your perspectives on these news stories? I look forward to hearing your ideas. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.